Good evening. Welcome to Between the Lanes. I'm Ron.
And I'm Shane.
And again, welcome to Between the Lanes, episode number 119. You can find us on YouTube, Slot Racers, the channel. We have 119 episodes up, some special episodes, and some how-to videos. Facebook, Between the Lanes is the page. And we have some race results. We got a lot of race results. The winning report. So the BOC, the British Open Championship, was at Rockingham last weekend. Production 124th was won by Brian Saunders. Will Stenman in second. Josh Bryant was third. And then the Open Group 12 race, Will Stenman was the winner. Martin Ellis second. And Richie Kettleson was third. Sorry, no podium pictures. Couldn't find any, didn't see any. So MidSouth was at the slot car track Concord last weekend, and Shane was there. In the 4-inch race, Walker McNulty was the winner. Bobby Beachman was second. Shane Parent was third. In GTP, Bobby B was the winner. Guy Spalding second. And Timmy, I'm going to blow in your ear, Bottoms was third. Or blowing him a kiss or whatever.
Yeah.
In the scale 4.5-inch class, Walker was the winner. Shane was second. Guy Spalding was third. And then in LMP, Bobby was the winner. Russ Martin was second. And Walker was third. And you ran LMP on the flat track?
Yep, we ran it on the flat track.
And the other three classes were on the Cobra?
The other three were on the Cobra.
Okay, that's what I thought. Penn, Ohio Retro Series was at Washington Slot Car Club in Washington, Pennsylvania. In the F1 class, Ricky Bernardo was your winner. Mike Muir second. Steve Kep in third. Can-Am, Ricky Bernardo was the winner again. Mike Muir second again. Greg Mayer popped in there in third place. And then in the stock car class, Greg Mayer was the winner. Ricky was second, and Dan Ebert came home third. Penn Jersey Series was at Speed Zone in the Cup class. Matt Bruce was the winner. George Russell second, and Bill Gearhart was third. And then in the Xfinity class, Matt Bruce was the winner, so he pulled off the sweep. Randy Corr second, George Russell third. No podium pictures. I gotta come back to something, but we'll do this. So the Mid-America, I don't know if this is really a Mid-America Hard Body Series race, but they had the kids race, the first kids race at Mid-America Naperville. I think they've got 5 or 6 more scheduled there. In the upcoming months, cars and controllers are supplied to the kids. They pay a pretty small entry fee. And there's a lot of photos and some video, and the place was full of kids at one point. So I don't know if this is actual racing or this was practice, or I'm going to say this is probably a race. But at various times, there was way more people there than this picture shows. I think they wound up with 12 or 14 kids total.
That's good.
And everybody looked like they had a good time. They also raced dirt late model on the oval, and this was bring your own cars, of course. And the winner there was Brian Meharry. Second was Neil Eisler. Ken Eisler third. Larry Kelly was fourth. And then they kind of have a new class, or I guess this was probably more of an exhibition race, but it's the hard body cars with a like 20,000 Select Sand LMP body. So it's pretty scale. They got like the 1-inch front tires and 1-inch rear tires, and the bodies are made for the big tires. So
right.
So they only had like 3 entries. Like I said, I think this was more of an exhibition race. And Neil Eisler was the winner. Ken Eisler was second. And Brian Meharry was third. And those three
were a close race.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yes, sirree. Retro Tokyo at Cheerio Speedway, Tokyo, Japan. Stock car race was won by Tibu. Kamo was second. Oktani was third. In the Can-Am class, Tibu was the winner again. Kamo in second. Cacho in third. I don't know who the fourth guy is on the side there. I'm assuming he was probably the TQ guy. But then F1 Haruki was the winner. Tibu was second, and Hyde was third. And there's that mysterious gentleman again who might have been TQ and F1 again. So, New England Retro Racing was at Modelville, and no podium pictures, but in the stock car class, Gary Clinton Jr. was the winner. Vinny Cafazzo in second, Keith Libby third. And then in the F1 class, Dominic Luongo was the winner, Gary Clinton Jr. second, and Chris C.D. Davis was third. The Usca Nats was at Mid-America Bloomington. In the production 24th class, Scott Morgan was the winner, Toby Kindig second, Kurt Vincent third. Can-Am, Kurt Vincent was the winner, Rick Stagg second, John Vincent was third. 4.5 inch stock cars, Jeff Strauss was your winner, Scott Morgan second, Bill Sabinek in third. And then the Spec Indy class, Randy Lynn was the winner, Bill Sabinek second, Rick Stagg third. And the Pacific Coast wing car race happened last weekend, and Frank Sarkella had trouble posting up pictures, so we don't have any podium shots. But NASCAR class, Corey Williams was your winner, Ryan McDaniel was second, and Frank Sarkella was third. In Group F, Buford was the winner, Paul Goronski second, and Ryan McDaniel third. The Box 12 class, Buford was the winner again, Paul Goronski second, and Ryan third, same podium. And then at 27 light, Buford was the winner again, Ryan second, and Frank Sarkella was in third. And then Rocky Mountain Retro Association was at RJ Raceway. Only have the stock car results. So Justin Keel was your winner, Matt Sheldon second, AJ Hoyt was third. NorCal Retro was at Fast Track Hobbies, home of the 2020 USRA Scale Nats. Can-Am Justin Colvin was your winner, Herman James second, Jeffrey Cohn third. In the Coupe class, Justin Colvin was the winner again, Jeffrey Cohn second. My little buddy Tyler Colvin was third. And then in F1, it was Justin pulling off the sweep, Chris Cross was second, and Tyler was third in the F1 class. And then, before we go, don't have any pictures for this race, but the F2000 race was at Alfa Raceway. And Group F, Jim Rapati was the winner, Rick Milkey was second, Marvin Weidenhaupt was third. Group 12, Jim Rapati was the winner again, Steve Schneider was second, Phil Kruder was third. C12, Phil Kruder was the winner, Rick Milkey was second, and Steve Schneider was third. And in Group 27, Paul Pfeiffer was the winner. Must have been a birthday present because it was his birthday either late last week or early this week. Group 27 was won by Paul Pfeiffer. Jim Rapati was second, and Steve Schneider was third. And winner, chicken dinner. That's everything.
Sunday, Sunday, Sunday.
Sunday, Sunday, Sunday. All right, so this weekend we got Ohio Challenge Cup at Downriver. The Ohio Retro Series is at HMS. Retro East is at Port Jeff. Central Illinois Slot Series is at Bloomington. Next weekend, Thanksgiving weekend, will be the Shinoda Reunion at Downriver Speedway, the Turkey Race at Boogie Speedway, and the Turn and Burn Turkey Race at Turn and Burn in Mocksville, North Carolina. And then also hard bodies at Thaser Raceway, which is part of the Thaser Pro Slot Hard Bodies Series. And then the first weekend of December, which would be the 7th, today they announced there's going to be a GTP race at Atlanta Slot Car Raceway. Midwest Spec Series is in action. Penn, Ohio is at Northeast Raceway. The BRS is at Downriver. Gator Retro Racing Region is in action. And then the Ohio Oval Series is also in action. The 7th, that's on the 8th, but the weekend of the 7th. The weekend of the 14th, Mid-America Hard Bodies at Pro Slot. You got the East Coast Flexi Series starting their new series for the winter. They're at Scale Speedway. Central Illinois Slot Series is Route 66. in Elkhart, Illinois. Retro East is in action, and the Florida Slot Car Series is at Fast Eddie's in Pinellas Park, Florida. December 21st, the Candy Cane 400 at Wiley Raceway, and I think it's in Rockford, Illinois. It's up that way. And then the 28th, the weekend after Christmas, we got Retro at Dallas Slot Cars, and the OCC Ohio Challenge Cup is at HMS. And everything's on the King track for that weekend. So we have some tech talk this week, Shane.
I like it.
You like it? Okay, so
Never
when we were at the FK Flexi Flats race, after the DTM race, Dave Smirka, aka 15B, the Shadow, Carl, whatever you want to call him, he answers to all the above. So he had changed. So he had like the 20 gauge lead wire on his car in the DTM race, and then he was going to change lead wires, and he put on 18 gauge lead wire, but then the guide flag wouldn't turn real good, and I think he wound up using a different brand of 18 gauge lead wire. So with that said, I mean, basically there's like 4 types. Well, there's only 2 types of lead wire commonly used in slot car. 20 gauge, which is the yellow at the top, which is a thinner jacket, less copper wire, lighter weight, and then you get into the 18 gauge stuff. So most of your 18 gauge wires pretty much are pretty close to being the same, but you have different, for one, you have different coatings. It's all silicone coated wire. A lot of colors out there, but then there's like the clear silicone coating. And then the black wire there, that is not soldered. Okay, that's silver wire, but it's not silver wire. So we'll get into that in a minute. So again, the lightest lead wire you can use is the 20 gauge. That's a multi-strand copper. I think the 2 most popular brands are Slick 7, and TQ recently came out with some, and it's got a black a coating. And then Alfa has had a 20 gauge for a long time, and I don't know what color that is. I think at one time it was gray and it was red, and I don't know what the
I think I have some black. I think I have some of that.
Okay, so you probably have the TQ then. So they're all pretty similar. I mean, pretty much the same copper number of copper strands and the same thin silicone coating. So compared to a 20 gauge at the top, and then you've got your 18 gauge at the bottom. And it's kind of confusing in wire sizing because people think the higher the number, the bigger it is, but it's the opposite. So the higher the number, the smaller, and the bigger or lower the number, the bigger. So as you can see between these two, I mean, you can obviously see there's a diameter, overall diameter difference, as well as the 18 gauge has a lot more copper wire. Okay, so there's just a piece of Pro Slot. It's in pink, 18 gauge, good stuff. And then you have 18 gauge with a clear coating. TQ and Mid-America both have this. And what's nice about the clear coating is you can see if you're ready to break a wire or not. Like if you have like a color coating wire on, you can have, a lot of times you get a kink somewhere past where you've got it stripped and soldered. You get kinks in there, and after a time it want to kind of, from turning, kind of wants to start breaking down. So unless you peel back and take a peek now and then, you don't know if your lead wire is getting ready to break. So if you use the clear, you can see that. I mean, it's very obvious. You know what I'm saying? Like you can see your wire if it's starting to break. Some of the strands are broke and some aren't yet. And like I said, getting ready to break. So, and then the black wire, like I said, that's not soldered, but that's tinned wire. Okay. So when you order lead wire, you can get it what they call tinned. which it's the same copper wire, but they actually pre-tin it before they turn into the strands, and it's ready to solder, but it's a lot stiffer. It's not as flexible as non-tinned copper wire, because this is really soft and flexible, where this is a lot stiffer. And I believe that's what Dave was, he had some old Parma lead wire that was the tinned lead wire, and he was trying to use it, and the way he had his wires running and stuff, it was just too tight, wouldn't turn. So as far as I know, Parma only offers non-tinned wire these days. This would be older wire from several years ago. I don't know when they went from tinned to just straight up copper, but the copper is, like I said, much nicer, much more flexible. Some people say, well, why would you want tinned wire? Well, the tinned wire, being it's stiffer, it's really good about it's really good for like drag cars, because you don't need the guide flag to turn, let's say. But with it being nice and stiff on road race cars, it doesn't want to fall through like the bottom of the chassis like the softer stuff does.
Right.
And I mean, like I raced when I worked at Parma and stuff and ran that lead wire, all we had was the tinned wire, and I ran it all the time. But I would run big loops off the guide flag, and then solder an earring back, because back then none of the chassis had a built-in wire retainer, so you could get it to turn and make it work with no problems. But with some of today's cars, the lead wire retainers are so far forward, you can't really get the big loops out there. So, don't know. I don't even know when Parma quit selling that, but I haven't seen it for years. So there's some information on lead wires. And, the thing about lead wires is a lot of, like, I would not recommend 20 gauge lead wire for like Group 7 cars or Group 27 cars, because it's just not big enough to carry the amperage. And a lot of people think, well, little wire, is going to be slower. But if you got big lead wire in your car and you put little lead wire in your car and it runs the same speed, basically doesn't slow down, then you've got plenty of wire there. You understand? If you was to change and go slower, then you need to put your lead wire back on you took off, or the same size. See what I'm saying?
I did that one time with a power supply.
Yeah.
Made my own leads.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this wire should be fine. I think I was breaking in C-cam motors.
The wire get hot?
Something burning. No, the wire actually burnt. The insulation, everything. I was like, that ain't gonna work. And what was crazy was the insulation, we'll just say, was like the size of your pinky, which it wasn't, just kind of a reference. So I'm thinking, all right, that's got plenty of wire. When it burned up and I peeled it off, it had the insulation of your pinky and had enough. The wire was like the size of remember the mechanical lead pencils?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, yeah, that ain't gonna work.
No.
And I never looked at what the wire was, because it already had the alligator clips pre-soldered on and everything.
Right.
I just plugged it in and was like, wow, I kind of jipped me on wire. It was misleading because the insulation on it was so big.
Right. When I started working at Parma, we didn't have 18 gauge lead wire. We had 16 and 14 gauge, because we had silicone wire, and it was for like RC cars and making battery packs and stuff. And I mean, I actually ran 16 gauge lead wire on my cars, because got to kind of run the Parma product, but it was just big and heavy, and it worked fine. But then we finally got some 18 gauge and just switched over, but it was tinned, where all the 16 gauge stuff wasn't. But like I said, I made it work, but I never really thought about weight back then on the cars. Like, just put the wire on there and ran it, Didn't really, I'm sure it was quite a bit heavier than 18 gauge, but I remember one time I was at a race, somebody says, what are you running that big like jumper cable wire for? So we got, and it works. Yeah. And, it's free. So
yeah. Exactly.
So, but I think we actually went to 20 gauge because we was building controllers with external resistors, and when you was building them with the 16 gauge, you couldn't get the handles on the controller, so it was like we got to get smaller wire. So,
Right.
like, well, we can sell as lead wire now. So we did, but it was all pre-10. So, like I said, it was stiff, but it worked. So, I thought we'd talk about lead wire tonight, and then in one of the upcoming shows, because I've been asked to do this, I'll make up some cars with different ways to run the lead wires.
That'd be cool. Give people different ideas.
Yeah. So I'm kind of consistent on the way I do it, but now and then I'll do it a different way.
Yeah.
But
I
I
think
haven't really settled on anything. I mean, I've been doing it one way for many years, but
right.
and then I do it the other way, and it's like, maybe I should start doing this all the time. But
yeah,
it just depends on when I'm putting the cars together. And
depends on the car and the body.
yep, and it also depends on if you're using big wire or little wire too.
Right.
Little wire, again, 20 gauge.
See, I don't use the little wire because you can't get the rebound on the guide. And then I've seen people take like heat shrink.
Yeah, I can get the rebound okay, but the thing about the 20 gauge, like 20 gauge is, I did this on the how-to video. Like the 18 gauge was 3 grams weight, and the 20 gauge was 1.5 grams. The only problem with the 20 gauge is you have to keep your eye on it because it'll break twice as quick as the big stuff does. So
I guess that could be another. How often is too often?
Right.
Changing lead wire.
Right. I mean,
some guys don't ever change, and then there's people like me after about the 3rd or 4th race.
Right.
I change it.
Well, see, if I go to a Nats or a big race, wing card days, like Group 7, I would qualify and run a consi or run a semi, and then after the semi or after the consi, then put new lead wire on for the next race.
Freshen it up.
Well, yeah, just not taking any chances.
Yeah, that's like Bobby. Bobby asked me one time, "Do you go through a lot of lead wire?" I was like, it depends on how much racing I do. Why? Yeah. He's like, I feel like I go through lead wire like crazy. And I'm like, well, how often do you change it? He's like, every race. And I'm like, well, that could be why.
Right. Well, that's like, okay, it's like Braid. Like the first slot car race I was in, I had problems and didn't finish because my braid, again, Mr. Naive, we didn't know about braid brushes and braid juice, and you put braid in your car and you ran it. And
right.
So, I bought my car. I'd been practicing with the car for several days, 6 days or whatever. We have this enduro race, and halfway through I start having problems and don't really know what it is, but it was the braid. And I don't remember. I think someone said, well, yeah, the problem's your braid, and so I went up, bought a new pair of braid, put it in the car. Well, the car was fine. So I'm like, from now on, every race, new braid.
Right.
And I remember we would go to, for years we would race, and every heat we would change our braid.
Right.
Even though we really didn't need to.
Yeah.
Just part of the pit deal. Yeah.
Right.
And then all that braid, when we pulled it out, would wind up going in the trash can. And like.
I make a pile.
Yeah, well, and again, back then braid was only 35, 45 cents.
I give it to the track to put on rental cars, or if there's what's a nice way to say it? A less, what am I trying to use here? Someone who ain't got a lot of money.
Less fortunate.
Yeah, or less.
Right, I got you on
the word. No, I'm trying to think what the word is now. An under expense team or something like that. I just say, here's some braid.
Yeah. And then I kind of started saving it. And then when I get a bunch, I give it to the local track. Say, here, use this on your rental cars or something.
Right. Well, I remember one episode you said that if you keep it and if you run short and braid, you just pull it out and cut it.
Yeah. Yep. So. Yep. If you're fortunate to have a track where the car will go around and short braid. Because not all tracks or types of cars you can get away with short braid. So
right.
Yep.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, that's where you get all your power from, the braid and the lead wires.
I've told people plenty of time, the car's doing this, or if they're upside down in tech and you look at
Right.
them, you're like, look at the braid, and it's like, oh, that car could be so much better if it had decent braid on it.
Well, and that was, okay, so that was another thing, and that's something else I need to do here in the near future, and I'm going to do it because I thought about it. But I was at a race, and, when we were at the FK Flats race, there was a racer who had braid in his car that he didn't even comb or widen out or anything, like off the
Stuck
wall.
it on and sent it.
Yeah, and it's like,
Yeah.
wow, no one, and it's like, I guess no one ever told you or
Yeah.
showed you what you should be doing to your
Oh,
braid.
you'll hear me all the time. Like if I'm racing at Randy's or at a race, I know you've heard me jokingly, oh,
Right.
that's episode such and such, 28 minutes in, you'll see it, body reinforcing. Oh yeah, that's episode this, 27 minutes,
Right. So, yeah, I need to we need to probably do that on the next show or next couple of
I
shows.
know we did something on braid before because we were having an issue with it shearing.
Yeah, we shown how to clip off the
The excess. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny because I was just thinking too, like 2 weeks ago when I raced, and I trimmed it and everything, but I still hit something that, I mean, the braid was more than cut in half.
Right.
If the braid's half-inch wide, more than a quarter inch was sheared.
Right.
And
I did one of your tricks this weekend in the GTP race. I took a hard front end hit.
Yep.
And it didn't peel the guide all the way back, but you can kind of see where it was weak. I just put the body up,
Soldering iron.
heated it up, started pushing it down. I was like, oh yeah, we're good now.
Yep.
Someone was like, what are you doing? I was like, that guy took a hit. He's like, how are you fixing it? I was like, it's plastic. I'm just melting it back, putting the Band-Aid on it, Make a mental note, don't hit anything again.
Melt it back together, hope it holds.
Yeah.
I don't hit anything else. So.
Yep.
So last week I think we touched a little bit on, but because the show was getting late, we talked about why guys don't race when the series comes to their town.
Right.
And you raced last weekend at Slot Car Track Concord.
Yep.
Was most of their local guys there racing with you?
Let me think here.
Did Wayne Little race?
Wayne Little did not race. He was on babysitting duty.
Okay.
I think Cameron was down in Florida because he works for the Porsche team.
Right.
I believe they were testing. George showed up, so he's kind of in the middle, but we'll call him a local.
Well, yeah, he's not like a local.
George was there. A guy who used to race with me, I guess you could say, was kind of on the team that it was semi-retired. We call him Little Robbie. He raced, so he kind of came out of the woodwork. He hadn't raced in probably 5 years. I got him to show up, so he was.
Well, that's the best turnout you guys have had in quite a while, right?
Yeah. Yep. We've been averaging for a whole day's event 30 to from the high end 40, and we had 53 entries. Our first class, which was the 4-inch NASCAR, we had 17 entries. That was our high class of the day. Our lowest class was, I believe, scale. We had 9 entries.
Okay.
That was still high for that class. So, yeah. I would say we probably had about 5 locals. I don't exactly remember. You know what I mean? George, Robbie. I believe there was a guy there, Brian. I think he was a local. But yeah, for the most part, to my knowledge, a lot of the local guys weren't there. But I guess you could say in their defense, it was what's going on that weekend. It was wrapping up NASCAR, and a lot of their local guys are NASCAR racers, or are on teams. Like Jeremy,
yeah,
he owns Mildred Speedway, and I'm not sure what relation it is, but the guy who won the Xfinity championship, his crew chief is related. I don't know if they're
Okay.
brothers or cousins or what. So Jeremy would have probably been there, but he was doing that, you know.
Right.
So, but I mean, for there not to be that many locals to show up, we still had a good turnout,
Right.
you know. Yeah, now I'm trying to think who all was there local wise. Like I said, it was a busy day because they also had a birthday party.
Right.
So, but I mean, I guess you can consider me a local because I mean I race there a lot more than any other place.
Right.
Bobby, George, you know, Russell races there a good bit. Timmy, you know,
Right.
so, which I think Timmy considers Archdale his local track. So, yeah, I'd say out of the 17, at least 5 were locals. I'll count myself as a local. I mean,
Right.
technically I'm not, but you know,
Sure.
yeah.
Good. Understood.
Everyone was helpful. Robbie got there. I had not planned on him to run GTP, but he got there in time for him to run GTP. So I was kind of like, all right, we'll see how this goes. And Bobby gave the car a blessing before I sent it on its way. And we were laughing today because I looked at the car he raced, flat, perfect, nothing wrong with it, you know, clean it up, on to the next one. The GTP car that I raced, I killed it.
Right.
So I was like, all right, well, oops.
Oops.
And then I let George run one of my 4-inch NASCARs.
Well,
I think I lent cars and Guy Spalding lent cars. And if there was anyone else letting people borrow cars, I wasn't aware of that.
right.
So, yeah. Plenty of help was going on. I know I helped a handful of people. I told them, I was like, I'm here, ask questions.
Right.
You're not going to bother me.
Right.
You know, I think at one point I was working on Charles's tire truer, truing a pair of tires for my car to race, and then talking to someone else about something. And Charles was like, "How do you do all this?" I was like, "Oh, this is nothing. I can do this." You know, and he was like, "I'd be
Multitasking.
so out of," you know. So, yep, we had a good time though.
Okay, so we got a couple of giveaways. We're going to give away a couple of the Mid-America Eagle motors, which is a new motor that's very similar to like the JK Hawk 7 in performance and price. So we'll give away 2 Mid-America Eagle motors, and you got to contact Roger at Mid-America Naperville so he can send you your motor if you win. So the first winner will be, or is, Gary Miller, which Gary Miller is a racer down in Kentucky. Gary Miller. And the second winner will be tonight's lucky drawing, Bobby Davis. Bobby Davis, Pennsylvania. He's a viewer of the show.
Is that junior or senior? And they're a junior.
That would be junior. Bobby Davis Jr. Because Pops is senior, so we go Pops
Right.
Davis.
Gotcha.
For Gary Miller and Bobby Davis Jr., need to contact Roger at Mid-America to get your free Eagle motor. And I'm going to say, I almost feel like Monty Hall, let's make a deal, but I really don't. So, you know, sometimes I get on YouTube and I kind of fall in the rabbit hole. You kind of click on something, you're like, So, I don't know, one night last week, there was something about Cadillacs on Let's Make a Deal. And it was a 20-minute video of show segments of all these different Cadillacs they gave away. They were probably from 71, 72 to 74.
Right.
And yeah, I remember being a kid. I'd been 10 years old or so at that time. And maybe before that, I remember watching Let's Make a Deal. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
and it's like those new Cadillacs were anywhere from like $9,000 to $12,000, which, I mean, that was a ton of money back then. That was huge,
Oh yeah, yeah.
huge money. And then one show they gave away a 72 Monte Carlo that was $5,000. And then the 73 or 74 Chevy Vega with all the options was like $3,000. And so then, on there, all the people would dress up in different outfits.
Right, costume. Yeah.
Okay, so and I didn't realize this either, but they had off on the sidebar the 1963 pilot for Let's Make a Deal. Like, it was the first one.
Right.
And so I clicked on that because I didn't realize that Let's Make a Deal started in 1963. That was the year I was born. So it's like I can remember being 5 or 6 years old and seeing Let's Make a Deal, not thinking,
Right.
Any time in my life, like, well, when did that show start or what's the history?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it still goes on to this day.
Yeah, I think they have a modern version, but
Right.
In the pilot, no one dressed up in outfits. People would come in and they would pick so many people to go down below, and the rest would be up behind. But what's really weird too is, and I don't know what year I was going to look this up, but we used to have $500 bills and $1,000 bills, and there would be on some of those shows, do you want $500 or do you want the curtain? I'll take
Right.
the $500. They'd hand them a $500 bill.
Right.
And there was times they would show a $1,000 bill. Someone turned down, they come down with a tray and you can pick a watch or you can pick a diamond ring. And of course it's a woman. She picks a diamond ring. Well, if she took the watch, had a $1,000 bill in there. So
Right.
it's just kind of weird to see, because I don't know if I've ever seen a $1,000 bill in real life. I've seen 500s.
No.
I don't remember a $1,000 bill because they were taken out of circulation. I mean,
I wanted to say I never seen it, but when Cody's grandfather was alive, we talked about it. I know he said he had a couple that he had in safety deposit box.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think they're not illegal to own, but I think you can't spend them. Like if you went somewhere.
Right. I imagine they're probably valued more now than what they're.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure they're worth more than face value.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's the reason why he had a couple of them was because he was like, yeah, it's technically $500, but you have these, they're worth X amount of dollars.
Well, then one time I was watching something on Pawn Stars where it was, a 30s or 40s bill. I don't remember what the denomination was. They didn't make very many of them, but this lady had them and it was a AAA condition or whatever. It was worth like $34,000.
Yeah.
And it was like a $500 bill or something. It was like
Pawn Stars. That's the one with, what was the guy's name? Chubbo or something like that. It was like two brothers, the funny guy. Cause I used to watch it.
Yeah. Chumley.
Yeah. I knew it was something. Yeah.
So yeah. So
that's also the one where the guy always has a guy. Let me call my guy.
Right.
He just lives right around the corner. Let me call my guy. Kind of reminds me of Ricky D. I remember at the Fiesta.
So in American Raceways news, and we brought this up, when we did the American Raceway story a long time ago. And, there was only like 8 or 9 Purple Miles ever built. And then a week or two ago on Facebook, somebody in Italy posted pictures of the Purple Mile that was in Rome. I guess they got rid of it in 80 or 81, according to what the guy posted. It had been there from like 67 to 80 or 81. And that was the only AMF built Purple Mile. But when American Raceways in the States, the story is there was only 8 or 9 built. And Peter Lentros claims he knows where all 8 or 9 went when they were new. And I don't know all 9, but I know pretty close to where 9 were. But there was one that went to Muncie, Indiana. Muncie, Indiana is about 20 minutes from me. It's where I was actually born. But by the time slot car racing was in Muncie, my family moved to Fort Wayne. So, but Muncie had a Tom Thumb, and they had an American Orange, and they had a Purple Mile. And that was the rumor I'd always heard, but no one could ever confirm that. So my neighbor, one day he said something about he had slot raced in Muncie, and he raced at Tom Thumb. And I said, well, what tracks did they have? And he goes, well, I don't know. And so I took him over the pictures of the American tracks and said, okay, like this one, no, this one, no. Yeah, that one, that orange track, we had that.
Right.
Got to the Purple Mile, and he's like, oh, yeah, that was my favorite track. Because I think it was so big. And
right.
so I kind of confirmed that Muncie had a Purple Mile brand new from American. And then yesterday or 1 or 2 days ago on Facebook, there's a Muncie page, and they were talking about slot car racing in Muncie. And Tom Thumb come up, and some guy says, yeah, they had the Purple Mile track there. And I posted a picture up, and a bunch of guys were like, oh, yeah, that was the track. That was the track.
Right.
So, yes, Muncie. See, the thing about, like, again, typical of that time back then, there were so many tracks.
Yeah.
Some tracks never were known for anything. I mean, it was pretty big that there was a Purple Mile in Muncie,
Right.
but no one ever talked about it. And Gary Adams, who's an old tri-state racer, he had said that there was a Purple Mile in Kokomo. Well, Kokomo, they had an Alltech 220, but they never had a Purple Mile. So maybe Gary had went to a race in Muncie and raced on that Purple Mile. But Tom Thumb in Muncie didn't last probably a year before it was open and closed. I mean, the people that owned it, they built a brand new building, which was kind of typical back then. A lot of places would,
Right.
build a new building, put, multiple tracks in, and did not make it. So this one guy claimed that he was told that the Purple Mile was still in Muncie in the attic of a church. And the Muncie Purple Mile actually wound up at G&G Raceway in Griffith, Indiana, like in 68, 69. They raced it on a few years, and then it got cut up, hacked up, and thrown in the wood pile. So that track no longer exists. But I told the guy, I said, that's the story, but if you might want to do some looking, because you'd have a pretty rare find if that track was actually still there.
Right.
And so he don't know if he's going to go look for it or not, but
Right.
I don't think it's.
That's just like I've thought about looking, because I am friends on Facebook with the old track owner where I started racing.
Right.
And asking him, hey, when you closed up the hill climb that we had, who did you sell it to and where did it go? And just see if I can track it down.
Well, see, that's like the orange track it was at Tom Thumb in Muncie. So if they closed in 68, 69, the orange track was found in a Goodwill store in like 1983 or 84 for $400. So a guy I know in Muncie, he bought.
Randy would have been all over that.
So he bought the track.
Right.
And got it home, was going to put it in his kind of little barn out back. But it was like 1 foot too long, and he couldn't shut the door to the barn. So it's like, I got this track. So anyway, he wound up selling it to a friend of mine in Fort Wayne in 1985, 86. And we raced on that track for I don't know, 4 years, probably 3 or 4 years. And it was like brand new shape and everything. So that was the Tom Thumb Muncie track. And where that track went after Fort Wayne, I have no idea. It's kind of lost out there. So,
Right.
But I think there's probably a lot of American tracks out there in hiding, so to speak.
Yeah, because I think this hill climb was Olivia. Started with an O. Who was a track builder that had
Ogilvy.
Ogilvy. Yep.
Ogilvy.
Yep.
Yep.
So
yeah.
I might do that tonight. I might send him a message and just say, hey, by any chance?
Any chance?
What would be funny is if I've raced on it since then and didn't even know. Because I've raced on a couple of hill climbs that looked familiar, but
Right.
You know, because I remember that the high bank was exactly what it's called, the high bank. It was taller,
Right.
you know, because you would walk into the front door of the build, and then to the right was a track, and the high bank, the highest point of the high bank was, I know, at least 6 foot high.
Right.
And then it had where the bottom stretch went down, and then it wasn't a 90, it was more like a turn under the bridge, and you come back up.
Yeah, because I think the first hill climb that Steve Ogilvy ever built was at Winter Circle in Bedford, Ohio.
Right.
And I remember the first time I seen it, the bank was, if I went to the bank and stood there, it's the hill climb down in Fast Eddie's in Pinellas Park. So I don't know. I mean, that bank is super high.
Yeah, that's high.
You know?
Yeah.
So like I could go and stay on that bank, and I couldn't see over it. I mean,
right.
I'm looking at wood or the sidewalk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the bank was that tall. But that track that Fast Eddie has is the first hill climb that Steve Ogilvy ever built. So.
Yeah, because whenever we went to Uncle Charlie's, they have a hill climb. And I remember Bobby was like, "Is this it?" And I'm like, "No," because the going underneath the bridge, it was kind of like a turn. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It kind of,
right.
Whereas theirs was more like a curve.
Right. And I can't, for the sake of me right now, remember who built that.
Right.
Because that's the track that was up here at REM. And it was either Ogilvy. I don't think it was a Chris Dad's. I think it was an Ogilvy.
Yeah, because it had a high hill climb.
Yeah, it's got a high bank on it too, right? Yeah. And most of the early hill climbs that were built by Haase and Ogilvy had big, tall banks. It wasn't until they got to starting to build grandstands where they got to be lower. Because the tracks, they would put the bottom straightaway so close to the floor.
Yeah, so I guess the track that used to be in Durham, that was at Engelman. Theirs was pretty low.
Yeah.
I guess one end was low and the actual high bank was on the other end. It was up pretty high.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that was an Engelman type track. Speed Zone. I've only been there once, but I think their bank's pretty tall on their.
Trying to think, because I've only been there once myself. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that bank's pretty tall too.
Yeah. But yeah, at least 5.5, 6 foot. I'm trying to remember because that's.
Right. But see, an Engelman's more like a grandstand because you don't have the top straightaway directly over top.
Yeah, they're kind of spread out.
Yeah. Yeah. So, which I mean, original Engelman was like a grandstand. Or, you know what I'm saying? Like the straightaways were not over one another. They were.
Right.
So.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Hey, that's all I got for this week.
Yeah, that's it for me. I'm not racing this weekend. I finally got, after a month and thousands of miles of traveling, I am finally off.
You're off for a weekend.
All from racing. I got to get some cars ready and break in some motors and clean some stuff up, and do inventory.
Okay.
So, get ready for Thanksgiving.
That's right. One more show and it'll be Thanksgiving. So I think the word for the weekend will be, or the show will be lead wire, because we talked about lead wire.
Gotcha.
And
should have gave some away. We should have had a sponsor some for a giveaway.
Maybe next week I can get Roger to give us some to give away.
Gotcha.
And I got to start working on getting a bunch of stuff for the annual Christmas Between the Lanes Ho 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 giveaway. So
that's right.
Like we did last year.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
You might even dress up as Santa Claus. Never know.
Might you? Well, you could always dye your beard.
Dye the beard. Yeah, get the little.
We'll see what Shane's going to look like in 20 more years.
Yeah.
Turn that baby white.
That'd be, yeah.
Maybe 30 years. I don't know. All right. That's all I got. Everybody, if you're going racing this weekend, have a good time. Good luck. Be safe. We'll be back next week for episode 120.
120.
The Gobbler special. All right. Have a good week.
Good night.